Salamullahi alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear sisters. I hope everyone is doing great. Today, inshallah, we are going to continue our journey in Tajweed in Al-Makharij. And today, inshallah, we are going to take the articulation point of letters Ta, Dal, and Ta. Let's share this chart with you. Well, before I explain about the articulation point, the exact articulation point of ta and dal, and dal, I would like to remind you about two parts or two organs which we are going to use today. First of all, ta and dal and ta are produced from the tip of the tongue, where the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor. Or in other words, the tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge where we do have the root or the roots, of the upper central incisor. Tip of the tongue, it is this area. This is the tip of the tongue. Not this. This is the head. We are talking about the tip. Okay, this is the tip. This is the first one I would like to remember. Okay, this is the tip which we are going to use. With what? It's going to be used with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor. Those are the two teeth. Those are the two upper central incisor. Those are the two ones. The first two in the front. They have the name of the upper central incisor. We are going to pronounce the ta, dal, and ta. Tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor, or the alveolar ridge where we have the root of the upper central incisor. Okay? So those are the two parts which we are going to use today. Let's go to the chart of the articulation point itself. Very well. Well, look, my dear sisters. This is the articulation point of ta, dal, and ta. This is the ta, and this is the articulation point of dal and ta. They are all the same, with only one difference. They are all tip of the tongue. This, the tip, this area, not this. This is the head. No, we say the tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor, or with the alveolar ridge where we have the root. If you have make X-ray, the root of the tongue will be here in this area. So the tip of the tongue with the root of the alveolar ridge where we have the root of the upper central incisor, or with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor. Ta, it is like this. Dal and ta, also the same. So tip, this area, tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor, or with the alveolar ridge where we have the root of the upper central incisor. Up, at. The difference is letter ta is harfun mufakham. It's a heavy letter. So everything we use to do with a heavy sound, we are going to do. Back of the tongue will be higher, and the epiglottis will be returned towards the wall of the throat to minimize the distance or the area from where the sound will come from here. So to make it as a full or a heavy sound. This will stop because it's heavy. It is vice versa with the dal and ta, or totally the opposite. So the back of the tongue would be lowered with dal and ta because they are light letters or huruf muraqqaqa, and the epiglottis will be remained as it is where it is. We will not return it back. And you can, of course, notice the distance here and here. Here is much bigger because it's light. They are light letters. Okay. So this is the main difference in articulation point. So I will repeat, ta and dal and ta, they are produced from the tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor, or tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge where we have the root of the upper central incisor. Both or all the same, ta and dal and ta. Different is that with ta, because it's a heavy sound, حرف المفخم, the back of the tongue will be raised and the epiglottis will be returned towards the wall of the throat, while the opposite with dal and ta, because they are light letters, حروف مرققة, so the back of the tongue will be lowered and epiglottis will be remained where it is. Fine. Now we are going to talk about the sifat, the main sifat of those letters, or the characteristics of those letters. First, regarding running of the sound, are those letters are loose, حروف رخوة, or in between, or حروف بينية, or حروف شديدة, tight letters. Those letters, all the three letters, are حروف شديدة, are tight letters. حروف شديدة means that the sound is not running when we pronounce any letter of those letters. Doesn't run with the ta, the sound doesn't run with the dal or with the ta, because simply the articulation point is closed with all. Okay, so let's try to practice pronouncing the ta. Up. So the articulation point is closed. The tip of the tongue is making full contact with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor. Full contact, no space in between with the ta, with the dal, with the ta. Let's take it letter by letter. With the ta, if I stop the sound when the articulation point is closed, up, the sound will be inaudible. You cannot distinguish which letter is this sound. Up, what's this? With dal also at, with ta at. No way. I have to open the articulation point so the sound will be released. So the letter will be audible and distinguishable. So with ta, what we do with ta, we close the articulation point and then we open it with a degree of force to allow the sound, which was trapped behind the articulation point, to run through the articulation point when it will be open. So let's take another color. Well, the sound is blocked here with the ta, okay? Out. What I will do, I will open the articulation point with a degree of force to allow the sound which was blocked here to pass through the articulation point, also with a degree of force which will make the sound to have what we call qalqala. So I open the articulation point of ta with a degree of force to allow the sound which was trapped behind to escape or to run through the articulation point, also with a degree of force, like the cans. When we open the cans, the steam will run from the cover quickly with a degree of force which will make the sound which we hear when we open the cans, because the steam was blocked, was dragged behind the cover of the can. The same. Up, top, up, top, up, top. With the dal, the same. Also, the articulation point is closed and then open with a degree of force to allow the air which was trapped here to escape through the articulation point when it's open with a degree of force, so the sound will pass also with a degree of force. At the output, the difference that the ta is a heavy letter, so the back of the tongue will be raised. Dal, it's a light letter, حرف المرقق, so the back of the tongue will be lowered. Pay attention. If you Vice versa, if you make it opposite, if with ta you lower the back of the tongue, it will look, you will pronounce it as a dal. Or it will be make a sound between ta and ta and dal. And if with dal you raise the back of the tongue, you will maximize, you will make it as a full mouth or as a heavy letter. So pay attention. This is one of the most common mistakes. Okay? أط أد أط أد. Okay? With the ta, what will happen? Also, the articulation point is closed. But with ta, I open the articulation point kindly, nicely, and I allow the air, not the sound, I allow the air, which was dragged behind the articulation point, to escape also through the articulation point when it will be open nicely. So it's hums. That's why ta, it's harfun mahmus. It's a voiceless letter. At, at, you are going to feel a lot of air if you put your hand before your mouth. At, okay? So at, also the articulation point is closed, but I open it with nicely, not with a degree of force, and I allow only the air, not sound. With ta and dal, sound. With ta, it's air. That's why ta, it's harfun mahmus, it's a voiceless letter. While ta and dal, no, they are voiced. They are hurufun majhura. The air is not running a lot with them. Okay? Okay. So regarding the running of the sound, we said ta and dal and ta all are hurufun shadida, or they are tight letters because the sound is not running. And we explained what we are going to do because we cannot keep the articulation point closed forever. Otherwise, the sound of the letter will not be audible. Okay, so we have to open it with ta and dal with a degree of force to allow qalqala to happen. With that, we open it gently, nicely, and only allow the air to run through the articulation point. So ta, dal, and ta are hurufun shadida, tight letters. Regarding running of the air, a lot of air, ta only it's a voiceless letter, harfun mahmus, while ta and dal, no, they are hurufun majhura, they are voiced letter. Regarding being heavy letter or light letters, hurufun mufakhama or muraqqaqa, ta, it's only the heavy letter in this family. Dal and ta, they are light letters. Okay? Ta and dal, they have the qalqala, and ta, of course, it has the hams. Okay? Well, this is about the articulation point and the most important sifat, or the most important characteristics regarding those three letters. Common mistakes: do not convert ta into dal or ta. This will happen if you lower the back of the tongue. And the opposite also, do not convert dal or ta into ta if you higher the back of the tongue. Do not pronounce dal with a lot of air. Dal, it's a voice, like harfun majhur. Especially that dal and ta, they are sharing we can say there is no difference regarding articulation points, the same shape. So pay attention. The main difference between them is ta, it's a voiceless letter, harfun mahmus, while dal is harfun majhur, voiced letter. So the air is running a lot with the ta, and while with dal, no. Okay? Okay. Of course, when you're reciting the Quran, if the ta is followed by dal, or the opposite, and if ta comes before ta or the opposite, pay attention. Do not make any letter come over the other one. If one is just a light letter, so keep it as a light letter. Do not make it come over the other letters. Okay? Now we are going to the examples. We are going to start by the ta. We are going to start by the ta with the sukoon. Ta with sukun. Any letter with sukun, as we said, that all the sifat must be clarified 100%. So the ta is harfun shadid, the sound is not running. Harfun majhur, so the air is not running. Harfun mufakham, heavy letter. And harfun muqalqal, we have qalqala. So all this must be 100% clarified when I pronounce the ta with sukun. Up, up, and kindly repeat after me. Up. We do not move our lips, my dear sisters. This is also one of the common mistakes with the ta, with ta, sa, and dog and ra. A lot of people used to move their lips. No, we do not move our lips. The lips are moved with the fa, ba, mim, waw, and dhamma only. Up, up. I close the articulation point and then I open it with a degree of force. So I will allow I will allow the sound which was wrapped behind the articulation point to pass through with a degree of force which will cause qalqala. Up, ta, ta, tu, and we said every letter with any short vowel, we pronounce the letter itself first, and then from its articulation point, and then I move to the articulation point of the short vowel. Who, who, we, we. We are going to read the words only where we have the letter. نطمع, نطمع. Kindly repeat. خطايانا, خطايانا. Pay attention. The ha is a full mouth and the ta is a full mouth. So here, alhamdulillah, it's very easy to be pronounced. I do not have a light letter before. Ha, ta. It's easy. Ha, ta. They are all heavy letters or حروف مفخمة. وأمطرنا, وأمطرنا. مطر, ما مرققة, طا مفخمة, را مفخمة, مفخمة. So ما طر, ما طر. مطر, مطر, ما, not ما, ما, مطر. نبطش البطشة, نبأ, huh? Pay attention, the ba is having qalqala, but it's still light letter, and it's followed by ta with the heavy. So do not pronounce it as a heavy ta. Not naba, it's naba, 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 only naba, naba, طي, naba, طي, naba, طيشو. The same with al and the new lips. Kind of do not move the lips with the ta. And shin also. A lot of people used to move the lips with the shin. No. نبطشو. I round the lips when I pronounce the dhamma, but I do not move it with the shin. الباء, الباء, الباء. Huh? Do not say الباء, الباء, الباء. البطشة, البطشة. Can you repeat? We are going to go to the next letter, which is letter Dal. Okay. Now you can see. Okay. Begin starting with dal with sukun. All the characteristics must be 100% clarified. All the صفات. حرف شديد. حرف شديد. tight. حرف مجهور. voiced. حرف مرقق. light letter. And we have the qalqala. All this must be clarified. Add, 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 add. Okay. The sounds still continue until I open the articulation point with a degree of force so I will hear the qalqala. Add, da, da, do, di, di. I pronounce the dal, then I pronounce the fatha. I pronounce the dal, and then I pronounce the dhamma from its makhraj. Do not forget the makhraj of the short vowels. They have their own makhraj. They have their own articulation point. Dal and then kisra. Okay. This is one of the common mistakes. وصد وصدها. When the dal, this is what I was explaining. Be careful when a heavy letter come before a light letter or the opposite. Here the dal, it's a light, حرف المرقق, preceded by صاد, which is حرف المفخم, heavy. So do not make the dal as a heavy sound, not وصد, not وصدها. No, you are going by this way to turn dal into ta, or a sound someplace in between the dal and the ta. Neither dal, neither ta, and it's not the Arabic dal. وصد, well, صاد, and pay attention. The waw is muraqqaqa. Dal is muraqqaqa, and in the middle, heavy letter, حرف مفخم. And this is needs more flexibility in your organs, in your tongue, in your muscles. It's by training, inshallah, you can reach. وصدها. Can you repeat? تعبد من دون. Da, ayn from its own makhraj, okay, middle of the throat, the epiglottis. Da, and do not return the epiglottis too much, otherwise you are going to pronounce heavy ayn. Ayn al and ayn in Arabic, it's light. Da, da, budu, I have here a fa, do. Can you repeat? I will recite this part because I have letter that repeated. I'll check on it again. ليسأل الصادقين عن صدقهم. الصادي الصاد مفخم دي مرقق صدق صي it's still مفخم yes have كسرة but of course it's مفخم صدق وأعد here no problem because it's light literate so no problem وأعد just the nine because Allah does not pronounce the ayn from its articulation point. If you do not pronounce the ayn correctly from its articulation point, from its makhraj, and you make it as a heavy sound, you will pronounce the dal as a heavy sound. Even if you do pronounce the dal in other places correctly. Because when we saw the Quran, each letter is affecting upon the next letter. So pay attention to this. Kindly repeat. Okay. We will recite all the ayah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ما يبدل القول لدي وما أنا بظلام للعبيد. Pay attention here. Before we talk about the dal, here, أنا, this zero, which this sign, which is very similar to English zero, if we have it over the alif, so this alif is going to be pronounced if we stop, but if we continue recitation, it will be dropped. And we have 7 alifs in Quran like this, called al-alifat al-sab'a, or the 7 alifs. Anna, وما أنا, here it's أنا, it's repeated a lot. أنا لكن أظنون الرسول السبيل سلاسل قوارير. Anyway, if you have this sign, if you continue, it will be dropped. That's why I made the 2 cases. وما أنا بظلام أنا بظلم. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. أنا بظلام. I didn't pronounce it. If I stop here, it will be pronounced. أنا. I'll pronounce the natural letter for 2 times. So, and the dal with shed to dal, the first one must be clarified with all its effects. يبدأ. يبدأ. I didn't say يبدأ like this directly. No, I have to wait for the dal with sukun. Yes, still it's حرف شديد, but still it has its time. I must give it its time. I must clarify its effect. يبدأ. يبدل. لا. دا. No problem. للعبيد قلقلة, because I'm going to school. I'm going to stop, so that will have sukun. The kasra will be replaced by sukun. Kindly repeat. Now we are going, inshallah, to take the last examples for letter ta, which we take today. Inshallah, we will take the examples for this letter. Let's share it with you. Now you can see. Okay, I will start as usual with the ta with sukoon. So ta with the sukoon, so all the sifat must be 100% clarified. It's harfun shadid, sad letter, sounds not running. It's harfun mahmus, voiceless letter. So the air, a lot of air is going to run when I pronounce the ta. It's harfun muraqqaq, it's a light letter. Okay, so pay attention to the back of the tongue. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it into ta. Okay, okay, let's go. At articulation point is closed, and makhraj is closed, and then I open it nicely, kindly, and I allow the air, not sound, to pass through the articulation point, causing the hams to be happen. At 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 at. Pay attention here. There is a very important common mistake with the tab, especially when it has sukun. At, it's wrong. At, it's having sound like ha or like seen. At, it's wrong. Why it's wrong? Why you produce this sound? Because you make a wrong articulation point. A wrong articulation point. When we pronounce the tab, we said the tip of the tongue. Let me share, because this is so important. It's very common mistake. Very, very common mistake. Okay. Look, my dear sisters. We said that the tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor, behind. And in other words, we say where we have the root of the upper central incisor. This is the area. Up for all the three. Up, at. Why you pronounce the ta with the sin or the ha? Because you do not, you forward the articulation point. Yes, the tip of the tongue, but you put it here. You put it here. You put it here. Where? If that behind or the inner part, you make the tip of the tongue meet the inner part of the upper central incisor. That's why you pronounce it with the sin at the end or with the ha of the end. You say at, because the alveolar, because the tip of the tongue doesn't make full contact with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor. You make the tip of the tongue meet or make full contact with the inner part of the upper central incisor. So you make this part, the tip of the tongue here. That's why you pronounce the ta with the sin sound or the ha sound at the end. I will pronounce it like this. At, I am doing this. I'm putting the tip of the tongue. I make it full contact. Make a full contact with the inner part of the upper central incisor. That's why I'm pronouncing at. This is wrong. This is wrong. The Arabic ta, it's here. The tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor. This we explained at the start, but I just wanted to share it with you again because this is one of the very common mistakes. So at only air, not at. No, you are making a wrong articulation point. So at. Repeat kindly. At. Ta. To. T. Of course, with the kasra, it will be very clarified. C. No, this is not the Arabic. T. This is similar to the English T. Like when we in English we say T, tree. They have this the sound of sin or fin. Different articulation point. T. This is the Arabic ta. T. If you make the articulation point correct, you will pronounce it correctly. T. Tip of the tongue with the alveolar ridge behind the upper central incisor. If you make the tip of the tongue meet the inner part of the upper central incisor, you pronounce it like with the sin and the sheen or the ha. C. No, this is not the Arabic. We are going to recite all the ayah because it's having ta. قال أتعبدون ما تنحتون تنحتوا kindly repeat. وأنبت همس وأنبتنا عليه شجرة. Of course, if I'm going to stop here, the ta marbuta, this is called the ta marbuta, is going to be replaced by ha, and tanween fath will be replaced by school. And this is one of the only exception with tanween fatha, because usually with tanween fatha, when we stop, we compensate it by mad awad, or compensation mad for 2 counts. But when the letter where we stop is ta'un marbuta, the ta' marbuta is going to be replaced by ha, and the tanween is going to be replaced by sukun. شجرة. Kindly repeat. ولقد سبقت كلمتنا. ولقد. Here you can notice the difference between the dal and the ta, especially that as we explained today, they are coming out from the same articulation point and both are light letter. So the back of the tongue is not raised, neither here, neither there. And we said the only difference that the ta is harfun mahmuz, voices, and the dal is harfun majhur. Dal have qalqala. After we open the articulation point, ta has hams, ta has hams after we open the articulation point. ولقد سبقت. ولقد سبقت. Okay, the difference. قلقلة. Here I open the articulation point with قلقلة. Here I open the articulation